Discover what you didn't know about Chicago, the Windy City in all its greatness. Welcome to World in Evolution. Today we bring you a fascinating journey to one of the most iconic cities in the United States, Chicago, also known as the Windy City. But what do you really know about Chicago? Did you know that this city has been key in the history of modern architecture and in the birth of some of America's most curious traditions? Today, we'll explore secrets you may not have known, from the mysteries of the Great Fire of 1871 to its history behind the famous Chicago-style pizza. But before we continue, I want to ask you two questions. Did you know that Chicago has one of the most impressive art collections in the world? And would you like to know what made this city the birthplace of skyscrapers? If the answer is yes, stay with us because what we are about to tell you will surprise you. Let's discover together all the secrets and curiosities of Chicago. Chicago, the third largest city in the United States, is known by many as the Windy City, a name that evokes images of freezing storms, icy winds, and unpredictable weather. However, this city is much more than that. Throughout its history and dizzying development, Chicago has been a hotbed of innovation, culture, and transformation. Behind its famous skyscrapers and imposing architecture, there are countless curiosities, fascinating facts, and little-known aspects that make up the essence of this unique metropolis. If you ever thought you knew everything about Chicago, get ready to discover some secrets that will surprise you. Chicago's founding dates back to 1833, a year that marked the beginning of an era of unbridled growth and expansion. What began as a small settlement on Lake Michigan soon became a major commercial, industrial, and cultural center. Today, Chicago is not only famous for its architecture, but also for its impressive history that has shaped the city as we know it. In fact, Chicago was the epicenter of the Industrial Revolution in the United States. It was here that some of the country's first steel mills were created, and where world-changing products were invented, such as the elevated train system, the elevated that still runs through its streets today. Something that many do not know is that Chicago was the birthplace of the world's first skyscrapers. The famous 10-story building known as the Home Insurance Building, which was completed in 1885, is considered the first structure to employ a steel skeleton, which allowed for the construction of buildings much taller than anything seen before. This was just the beginning of what would later become a city famous for its impressive skyscrapers. Today, Chicago is home to some of the tallest buildings in the United States, such as the Willis Tower, formerly known as the Sears Tower, which stands at a staggering 1,450 feet, 442 meters, making it one of the most iconic skyscrapers in the country. As for its architecture, we cannot fail to mention the importance of architect Frank Lloyd Wright, a man whose vision completely changed the way we perceive buildings. Born in Wisconsin, but with a prominent career in Chicago, Wright developed the architectural style known as the Chicago School and designed some of the country's most iconic homes. The Chicago Museum of Art, which houses one of the most comprehensive art collections in the world, was also founded in this city. Indeed, Chicago is a mecca for art and culture lovers, and its art scene is as vibrant as its skyline. The Windy City is also famous for its cuisine, and in particular, its deep dish-style pizza. While Neapolitan pizza is probably the best-known pizza worldwide, Chicago pizza has a special place in the hearts of Americans. With a thick base and a dense layer of melted cheese, meat, sauce, and more cheese, Chicago-style pizza is a unique dining experience. Another typical dish of the city is the Chicago-style hot dog, a hot dog that must have mustard, onion, relish, tomato, pickles, peppers, and salt, but absolutely no ketchup. For the locals, a Chicago dog is as essential as the city itself. The winds, those that give the city its name, are not just a meteorological curiosity, but have played a fundamental role in shaping Chicago's daily life. It is said that the wind in the city can become so strong and cold during the winter months that it feels like a dagger cutting the skin. Although the city is not the windiest in the country, that honor goes to Dodge City, Kansas. The wind in Chicago is certainly more noticeable due to its proximity to the lake. This influence of the lake climate contributes to its nickname and, at the same time, to a sense of energy and dynamism that can be felt in the streets, especially in the famous Loop. Wind and architecture aside, Chicago's history is intrinsically linked to one of the country's most shocking tragedies, the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. This devastating fire, which started on a small farm, leveled more than 3,000 buildings, destroyed more than 17,000 homes, and left more than 100,000 people homeless. However, in the aftermath of this tragedy, Chicago rose like a phoenix from the ashes. The city rebuilt its infrastructure using the latest advances in engineering and design, allowing it to become a symbol of resilience and the human capacity to overcome adversity. Music has also played a central role in Chicago's cultural history, especially in the jazz and blues genres. Chicago was the epicenter of the blues revival during the 1920s and 1930s, and artists such as Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and Willie Dixon were pioneers of this genre that became world famous. The city was also home to big names in jazz, such as Louis Armstrong and Benny Goodman. Today, you can tour some of the world's most legendary blues bars and clubs, such as Kingston Mines and Buddy Guy's Legends, where the echoes of these old-time tunes still resonate. One of the most unique aspects of Chicago is the complexity of its transportation network. Unlike other cities, Chicago has an elevated train system, known as the L, that allows residents to move quickly through the city while offering breathtaking views of its famous skyscrapers and Lake Michigan. With more than 1,100 miles of track and 145 stations, the L is the largest and most extensive public transportation system in the United States, second only to New York. In fact, the system was designed with an aerial structure to avoid ground traffic, making it a unique architectural phenomenon. Millennium Park is another of Chicago's attractions. Located in the heart of the city, this public space is home to some of the world's most famous sculptures, such as the Cloud Gate, also known as the Bean, which is a huge stainless steel sculpture created by artist Anish Kapoor. Its polished surface reflects the city's urban landscape and has become one of Chicago's most photographed landmarks. The park also features an outdoor amphitheater, the J. Pritzker Pavilion, which hosts free concerts during the summer and one of the best views of the city's skyline. Despite being a city of great contrasts, Chicago is also known for being a melting pot of communities that have made diversity one of their greatest assets. With a population of about 2,700,000, Chicago is home to people from all over the world, and its neighborhoods reflect this rich multicultural heritage. The city has one of the largest populations of Latino, Polish, Irish, and African American communities in the United States. This mix of cultures is what gives Chicago its unique flavor, visible in its music, its food, and, of course, its festivities. In terms of sports, Chicago is home to some of the most iconic teams in American sports history. The Chicago Bulls, with their 6 NBA championships and the golden era of Michael Jordan, are a symbol of success and determination. The NFL's Chicago Bears, although they have not won a Super Bowl in decades, remain one of the most popular franchises. The Chicago Cubs, meanwhile, finally broke their curse in 2016, winning the World Series after 108 years of waiting. We can't forget the Chicago Blackhawks, the ice hockey team that has won 3 Stanley Cups in the last decade, cementing Chicago as one of the country's sportiest cities. Finally, Chicago is also known for its festivals, such as the famous Lollapalooza, which is held every summer in Grant Park and brings together thousands of people from all over the world. It is one of the most important music festivals and one of the largest in America. Throughout the year, the city also hosts film, theater, and literary festivals, and hosts one of the largest Christmas markets in the United States, the Chicago Christmas Market, which attracts tourists from all over. Undoubtedly, Chicago is a city that continues to evolve, always surprising those who visit or live there. From its unpredictable weather to its stunning architecture, vibrant cultural life, and passionate sportsmanship, Chicago is much more than a city. It is a unique experience that stays in the hearts of those who know it. Chicago, beyond its renowned architecture and industrial heritage, is a cultural hotbed that manifests itself in every corner of the city. One of the jewels of its cultural heritage is the Field Museum, a fascinating place for lovers of science and natural history. With more than 26 million objects in its collection, it is one of the largest and oldest museums in the world. The famous Tyrannosaurus rex exhibit, known as SU, is one of the most popular, being one of the most complete fossils of A.T. rex ever discovered. But the museum is not only notable for its dinosaurs, but also for its displays of Egyptian artifacts and its impressive planetarium. Another sign of the city's vibrant character is the Museum of Contemporary Art, which houses one of the most influential collections of modern art in the world. With works by artists such as Andy Warhol, Jeff Koons, and Jasper Johns, the museum is a landmark for fans of the visual arts. Chicago is also home to the famous Chicago Symphony Orchestra, which has been recognized as one of the best in the world. Founded in 1891, the orchestra continues to delight listeners with its classical and contemporary repertoire. As for the city's most peculiar traditions, one of the most anticipated moments each year is the Rose Festival, an event that occurs in summer and celebrates the arrival of blooming in Chicago. The festival is famous for its parade full of color, music, and local culture. But perhaps the most curious part of this event is the competition between urban gardeners, who compete to have the most lush and blooming garden in the city. This tradition highlights the locals' love of gardening, even in an urban setting. Chicago is also noted for its relationship with literature. The city has been home to renowned writers such as Carl Sandburg, who immortalized the city in his poem Chicago, which describes the city as a city of big shoulders. Illinois-born Sandburg captured the essence of Chicago as a city in constant motion, full of contrasts and challenges. In addition, Chicago is home to the famous Chicago Public Library, which not only boasts an impressive collection of books, but also interactive spaces and activities that encourage reading among young people. The city is also an epicenter of dance, particularly tap dance and jazz dance. In the 1920s, Chicago became a key meeting place for dancers and musicians, and its influence lives on today. Renowned dance academies can be found in the city, and many bars and clubs continue to offer live shows where jazz and dance merge in a magical way. As for its nightlife, Chicago is known for its prolific bar and club scene, especially for its link to blues music. One of the most iconic venues is the Green Mill Cocktail Lounge, a bar that has been operating since 1907. This place, famous for its Prohibition-era history, is a cult venue for jazz and blues lovers, and has remained true to its style for more than a century. The city is also famous for its speakeasy bars, speakeasies that harken back to the Prohibition era, where visitors can enjoy classic cocktails in hidden settings. One of Chicago's most curious traditions is the duck escapade in the famous Millennium Park. During the spring, ducks escape from their ponds and form a sort of parade through the streets near the park. The inhabitants, in a mixture of amazement and amusement, follow the ducks' path as they navigate through the city as if it were a real ride. This peculiar custom has been one of the many ways Chicago residents find beauty and entertainment in the everyday. The Lakefront Trail, which runs along Lake Michigan, is another of the city's treasures. Not only is it a great place to walk, run, or bike, but it is home to a number of sculptures and public art that complement the experience. It is one of those places where you can enjoy nature and at the same time a breathtaking panoramic view of Chicago's skyscrapers, creating an atmosphere that combines the best of the urban and natural landscape. We cannot forget to mention Route 66, which has its starting point in Chicago. This historic highway, which crosses the country from north to south, begins at the Willis Tower, formerly known as the Sears Tower, the tallest building in the city. Route 66 is famous for having been the main migration route for many during the Great Depression, and its symbolism of freedom and adventure has been immortalized in American popular culture. The love of art is not limited to museums or galleries. In Chicago, murals and public art play a vital role in the city's identity. One of the most emblematic places is Pilsen, a Chicago neighborhood where the Mexican community has left a deep cultural imprint. On its streets, you can find huge murals that tell stories of struggle, hope, and Latino heritage in Chicago. These murals are not just decorations, but symbols of the resilience and belonging of a community that has grown tremendously in the city over the decades. Chicago's architecture remains one of the most innovative in the world. Interestingly, the Chicago School of Architecture introduced the concept of the steel office building, and while the city is known for its tall skyscrapers, it also has Art Deco buildings that have influenced urban design globally. The Chicago Cultural Center, a former municipal building that now serves as a cultural center, is famous for being home to one of the largest stained glass windows in the world, a work of art that spans 38 feet wide and 18 feet high. One of the most intriguing curiosities is that, in Chicago, you can drink beer on public transportation. Unlike many other U.S. cities, where consuming alcohol in public places is strictly prohibited, in Chicago, passengers can drink beer as long as it does not interfere with safety. This small liberty allows residents and tourists to enjoy the city in a more relaxed way, while moving from one place to another. Chicago is also distinguished by its love for festivities. The best known is St. Patrick's Day, a celebration that fills the streets with green. However, what makes the holiday unique to Chicago is that, since 1962, the city has been dyeing its Chicago River a bright neon green. This tradition, which takes place every year before the parade, attracts thousands of tourists and locals who marvel at the sight of the river transformed into a spectacular green ocean. It is one of the most anticipated events of the year and reflects the festive and daring character of Chicagoans. Despite being such a modern and vibrant city, Chicago does not forget its historical roots. The city is famous for its ghost tours, where the darkest and most mysterious corners of the city are explored. Many of these tours take place in places like the Rookery Building, considered one of the oldest buildings in the city and known for its stories of restless spirits. These legends, mixed with mystery and ancient architecture, add a touch of suspense to Chicago's rich cultural history. If you've been fascinated by everything we've just shared about Chicago, we invite you to subscribe to our World in Evolution channel so you don't miss out on more exclusive content about the most interesting cities on the planet. Also, if you want to continue learning about amazing stories and life-changing tips, don't forget to visit our website at selfmadamillionaires.online, where you'll find resources to help you evolve in every aspect of your life. See you in the next video.